Hello everybody and welcome back to the space station. My name is MoonBoy Gaming and welcome to the second volume of the Southeast Asia Meta Snapshot right over here. So as we said, this is going to be a very specific meta snapshot for the Southeast Asia region, and it's slightly different in terms of like different decks that's played, and also maybe some variation of the decks that is slightly different as well. And at the same time, the deck showcased over in this deck list, as much as possible I would like to showcase Asian, like Southeast Asian players playlists as well. So yeah, so these are all, most of the decks over here are created by Southeast Asia players. So first deck over here, jumping right straight into it, we have probably the best aggro deck right now in the format, and it is still probably unstoppable. And yeah, the origin of this particular deck, I would also say, it is also created by players from the Southeast Asia region. It's actually created by Zeroinfinity and Sashime. And this deck is really easy to pick up, and it is the best choice for you guys to climb right now. And the winning percentage is probably really high right now, and you win games so fast. And even though you lose, if you lose fast, and then you move on to the next game immediately. So it kind of, this whole objective is to hit face with overwhelmed targets and finish with burn or even harrowing. So there are lots of different variation for the deck right here, and this is probably my favorite build for this particular deck. Having one copy of the Kato of the Arm, which is something that is very different compared to the old list. And instead of Elise, they run Draven instead to prop the allegiance easier. And also, with the spinning axe, it could allow overwhelm target to have one more extra damage just by pushing through. And also the standard 3 harrowing and 1 atrocity. Some players actually cut down on 1 harrowing for the extra copy of transfusion, but it's all up to the players over here. Some even play 2 Kato instead. So I personally feel like this is the probably the best list that I personally prefer. But there's lots of variation right now going around, and also there is another variation over here with 3 copy of Elise. So yeah, it's all really up to the players, how they want to do it. But some players don't really like the extra 3 SI unit over here, so instead, they changed it to Draven for the extra spinning axe, at the same time not missing their allegiance counter. And then moving on to the second deck on tier S, right over here we have Karma Asriel. So Karma Asriel is a deck that is really difficult to pilot, but however, the power level of this deck, if piloted properly, is probably close to unstoppable. And yeah, so this deck is actually provided by us by our YBRCY, who is the champion of DOR12. So he actually went into the competition with this deck and won lots of tough opponents with this particular deck. So this is the list that he used for Duels of Runeterra. And something interesting over here is that he has 1 copy of Chamwam. Usually players will usually run 3 copies, but however he chose to go with 1 copy of Chamwam. But however, right, he went with more copies of Concussive Palm, 3 copies of Concussive Palm, 2 copies of Gotcha, which is something that is don't really see, like, it's either Gotcha or Get Excited. As Get Excited, players would want to rush the opponent down with Karma at turn 10. And also, adding a Key Guardian over here for an extra draw, and of course Barrier for Asriel or Karma for protection. So this is the deck list that he used to win Duels of Runeterra over here. And yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward Karma Asriel list, but a little different in terms of the Chamwam and Gotcha and Get Excited, the count of the cards over here. So moving on to deck number 3. So the next 2 slot over here, MF Lucian Scout and Brom Nivea, is not seeing as much play right now in the Masters ladder in Southeast Asia. But however, they are still really strong decks in the format right now. And this is the MF Lucian Scouts provided by Black Hole that won Belchwater Brawl Volume 2. So it's favored against Ionia and PNZ flavors. and it is really good creature deck. So if you guys like to play a creature deck that is like really wide in board and at the same time that is fast, this is a deck that you could try. And I would really recommend beginners of the game, if you just started out this game, um just learn to play Demacia would let kind of like nail the basic down for you. So yeah, so this is the deck I would recommend. If you are a newcomer, this is a deck that you can try. And at the same time, you could abuse things like rally effects from Lucian and Relentless Pursuit, right? And also, with Island Navigator, you could make use of scouts in learn how the mechanics of scouts and take advantage of attacking multiple times in a same turn. So yeah, so this is probably the I personally prefer this build, but however, there are like lots of different builds with Venomman as well. But this is the build I would recommend that you guys should try, and hopefully, it will gain some reward for you guys. So moving on to the last deck of tier S over here, and we have Brom So Brom is the best control deck in the game so far. When it comes to full-on control, board control and everything. So Karma Asriel is kind of like counted as a control deck, but Karma Asriel is a combo deck, while Brom is kind of like a control style kind of deck. So where you control your opponent board and things like that. So but however, this particular deck has been seeing lesser and lesser play on the Masters ladder right now. So yeah, it might be falling off a little bit because of the rise of Karma Asriel, because this deck is so unfavorable against like combo decks like Karma and Asriel, because they are so slow. They want to reach turn 10. Karma Asriel also as well would like to reach turn 10. So Bromnivia, would be losing out in that particular department where, coming into turn 10, where Karma Asriel would have such more explosive ending. So this is the list provided to us by Black Hole. He is the champion of Belch Water Brawl 2, and this is the list he won that tournament with. And as you could see, right, it is a very control style kind of deck, and where you have Brom, Everest Sentry, and Kindly Cavern Keeper to keep you alive in the early game. And then dropping Anivia on 6 and then Rekindle on 7 to bring back the Anivia if the Anivia is dead. So with this, having more and more Anivia on board, and then that's how you finish off your opponent. And then moving on to the spells over here, you have 3 Glimpse Beyond. It is a draw engine for the deck. Like being in a control deck, all you need is draws, lots of draw, and having more hand power could give you much more options later on into the game. And also Glimpsing Beyond and Anivia over here, could allow the Rekindler to gain more value in terms of, you kill an Anivia immediately and then bring it back with a Rekindler as well. So Balfeast over here, could keep you off like pesky small little 1-drop creatures like Green Glade Duo and things like that. So Balfeast over here, it would be really good to stop all these 1 health creatures, and at the same time, it is also a a healing unit. You guys can heal 1 of this particular card, and also having a Spiderling as an extra blocker as well. And then 2 copies of Avalanche, and you could control your opponent's board, just doing 2 to everything. And if Brom is on the board right now, on the board as well, it could spawn you a Mighty Poro, or at the same time, it could just damage Brom to make him closer to leveling up. Fury of the North, 2 copies of Fury of the North. This is probably the best card in Theoroid. If you are playing that particular card region, you should be playing this particular card. And also the box 2 copy of the box, which is kind of a tricky play. Right? The box is not an easy card to be playing with, but if you time it well and you time it right, you could be rewarded really high. The reward is so high that better players are actually playing it in their deck right now. And 3 copies of Graphs and 3 copies of Withering Wheel for healing and at the same time removal of creatures. So this is probably like what, 9 and 9. So this 18 points of healing just from Graphs and Withering Wheel. 3 copies of Vengeance over here just to take things out like Darius, Leviathan, and anything of a bigger threat that you can't remove with any of the spells over here. So Vengeance is a great single copy remover. And and with Ruination, you guys could clear your opponent's board if they overcommit into the board. And against regions like Demacia, Runation is such a great card against it. And also Harrowing, bringing back all the Anivia that was dead. Even though in bringing back all the Anivia that was dead, swinging with all those Anivia that is brought back from the dead, and with the Ephemeral tag, they turn into the egg, and then they will just revive it the next turn. So 9 mana Harrowing is probably bringing back like 3 or 4 Anivias back onto your board, and then they just revive the next turn. So this card is so good to not see play, and this is what makes a deck what it is. So yep, guys, so this is the Brom Nivea deck that was brought by Black Hole to Belchwater Brawl. And then moving on to the tier A list right over here. Starting off, we have Darius Felroid. So this, have not really seen play recently. I kind of like contemplating dropping it down to tier B. But however, this is the deck that some players would prefer playing. But however, the Harrowing version is so much more stronger, and this kind of like let's slack off a little. So I feel this is kind of on the line of tier A and tier B, so probably we will see how it goes, and it's not really seeing much playability at this point of time. So yeah, so this is the Darius Felroid variation. With Omen Hawk, you guys could make a really bigger creature. Imagine having a 7/5 Basilisk Rider just because of the buff from Omen Hawk, and also with the Fury of the North, you could stack it onto a Basilisk Rider, Iron Ballista, or even Darius. The amount of damage that you're gonna dish right to your opponent is so huge that probably they have no way to stop it. So this is the deck that utilizes the buff effects of Felroid, and at the same time having Ruthless Raider as a overwhelm target as well. But however, with the ability of Tough, it could easily trigger things like Transfusion and also Imperial Demolitionist. So it's kind of free while you're putting it on the Ruthless Raider, because dealing 1 damage to it is no damage because of the Tough ability. So yeah, so this is Ruthless Raider is here, and you guys could take advantage of the Tough ability on this particular card. So overall, this is still a very aggressive card, but however, it has not seen much play recently, and I would maybe probably by next week it will be dropping down to the next tier B as well. And also moving on to the second deck over here, we have Asriel TF. Right, Asriel TF, it is a combo deck, and it's like heavily reliant on utility, rewards flexibility playstyle, some cheap damage, and also finish off with Asriel and Burn from like Rex and spells and burn spells. So this is the deck list that this is the same deck list that was featured in the last week snapshot as well. Because of the buff of the Petty Officer, they actually ran 3 more copies of it. And yeah, so this is fairly straightforward list. Still running 3 Pilfer goods. It's too good to not be played right now. And yeah, Asriel TF, at the same time, if you can flip TF, this is probably the your worst matchup if the TS is flipped. So yeah, this is the deck list, and it's fairly straightforward. And finishing off with Riptide Rex will give you 7 stacks onto Asriel, and things like Make It Rain can go up to 3 stacks on Asriel. So, and Static Shock for 2 stacks on Asriel. So you kind of can see that leveling up Asriel here is not much of a problem, and leveling up both heroes, champions over here will not be much of a problem, because Asriel you have like multiple target units, and at the same time Twister Fate you have things like Yoink to help you out with the draw. And even if with TF Twister Fate pick a card, it could also allow you to generate much more cards. And I actually played against this particular deck personally, and the Twister Fate evolved, and I was like, dude, this guy is unstoppable at this point of time. So yeah, so this is the Pnz Belchwater Twister Fate deck. And then moving on to Ash Sejuani Freeze. So this is the deck used by YBRCY, the champion of DOR12. So this is whole gist of this deck is to buff your creatures, get good trades off Frostbite, and also using the Ash freeze card, to freeze your whole board and then finish off with a Ash OTK as well. So this is the deck brought by YBRCY, the champion of the Duels of Runeterra, and and lots of players actually cutting that one copy of Shadwani, adding in the one copy of Captain Pharaon to actually allow them to close off the game much easier and much faster. And something interesting over here with this particular deck is that YBRCY runs a copy of Flash Freeze that could give him an edge in some trades, cheese out some little cheap trades for him. And also with Omen Hawk and Everson Halfguard buffing the whole deck, guys, you could possibly get a like 11/11 Captain Pharaon off the top, and then with 3 more Decimate, you could just finish the game right on the spot right over here with Captain Pharaon. So this is a really interesting card to be adding into the deck, and I love it. And you guys who are interested in this deck should try this variation with Captain Pharaon in it. And also moving on to the spells over here, we have Brittle Steel to freeze enemy for like 3 health, who with less than 3 health. And Column Strike over here is a very great card right now. It could kill off so many good champions right now in the format, right? You have Lucian, you have MF, you have Swain, you have Brom, you have Anivia, you have Anivia's Egg. Well, who else there? You have Darius, you have the list just goes on and on, right? So Culling Strike right here is such a valuable card to have and not to play during this particular format. So so this list is kind of what it is, and it has been proven in like lots of events, and it is also there are lots of good players who actually have great result in climbing with this particular deck as well. But however, it just is not seeing as much play right now on the ladder, therefore is dropping off a little bit as well. Right, so moving on to the first drop of this particular list compared to the last Meta Snapshot. Here we have Heimerdinger Vi. So it is still a solid and stable, have good matchup across the board. But however, because of the rise of Asriel and Karma, so Heimerdinger Vi kind of like see lesser play right now. Therefore dropping down the tier by 1. So Heimerdinger is kind of like lost, but however it is still a really good deck, and this is the deck list provided by Rainferret, and he actually used this deck into Duels of Runeterra and made top 8 with this particular deck. So this is still a very straightforward Heimerdinger Vi deck list, right? Which instead I think he ran 1 more copy of Static Shot and 1 less Get Excited. So this is a very standard Heimer Vi. It is dropping down barely due to the rise of Karma Asriel, and this deck probably is not fast enough right now at this current meta. But however, as a deck, this deck, if pilot at the highest level, it is probably one of the most unstoppable deck, but it's just not as great as Karma Asriel at this point of time. Therefore, not seeing much play in Southeast Asia. And moving on, we have the first increase in tier over here. We have Brom Swain. So Brom Swain has been seeing lots of play, and as we covered in the previous Meta Snapshot, this deck is going to be the up and coming deck, and it did, it really did, and it showed its power level at Duels of Runeterra 12, and this deck was piloted by Hai, and he did his own variation of this particular deck, where if I'm not wrong, the deck made by BBG actually had 2 Babbling Beard, and so the only difference I actually shared with us that he don't need 2 Babbling Beard. 2 Babbling Beard is kind of an overkill, and then he traded for an Everson Sentry. So this is kind of a flex spot in the list over here. So if you guys would like to do some changes, the Everson Sentry could be the one being changed, probably a 3rd Demolitionist, or something of your choice. So this is gonna be the flex spot of this particular deck. And so this is a very tempo heavy deck. that relies on very good control, board control. You know, things like Iceveil Archer could stop your overwhelmed units, like Iron Ballista, Basilisk Rider, and so does Arkanoid Sentry. Arkanoid Sentry over here could stop a Darius that's coming down, stunning it, not allowing it to attack, and this probably has the best way to deal with Darrowing, by not overcommitting by killing most of the creatures, so that we don't really allow much harrowing value. So this is probably my favorite deck right now, and I really love this deck. And I'm actually, like, personal experience, I'm doing great with this deck. I'm having a positive win rate right now with this particular deck, so I would recommend you guys to try out this deck. It's a very good deck that treats very well with other decks as well. So ending off the game with Swain and the Leviathan, it could combo off, and your opponent would probably not move anymore at this point of time. So all you need to do is just wait, draining 3 damage off his Nexus every single turn, and then sooner or later he'll just explode. So yeah, this is the Brom Swain deck list that is pretty straightforward right now, and it is seeing lots and lots of result, and I believe like this deck is gonna be really strong. So yeah, you guys should try it and see it for yourself. But however, this deck is not that easy to pilot, if you are not getting good trades of of your creatures over here, and your burn spells. So they run 3 copies of Ravenous Flock, 3 copies of Culling Strike, 3 copies of Death Sand, 3 copies of Nocturne Fervor, and 3 copies of Spirit of North. So it is a very straightforward, everything just running by trees. It's gonna be as consistent as possible. Babbling Beard is there to bring out the Leviathan to allow you to close the game by turn 10 probably. So yeah, so this is Brom Swain. And also moving up the ladder right now, we are seeing much more play in the Masters ladder. We've seen more Kinko Elusive popping up here and there, and yeah, so this is still a fairly same old Kinko Elusive that has always been around, and this deck is provided by Shinbu, which is a top 16 of the Duels of Runeterra 12. So yeah, this is a very straightforward a Kinko Elusive, running 3 copies of Keeper of the Mask. But however, there is a Navori Highwayman, so some players would remove this and go for a Navori Conspirator, or even Jewel Protector and things like that. Or so this is the list provided to us by Shinbu. I personally like it, but I don't think Navori Highwayman should be it's not that great over here, so probably this is gonna be the card that you guys can change. And with the Keeper of the Mask combo, every Keeper of the Mask that drops after a Green Glade Duo, the Green Glade Duo will add up to 2 damage just by this particular Keeper of the Mask. So if you guys could Keeper of the Mask, Navori Conspirator, and then the Green Glade Duo just goes crazy after that. So yeah, so this is the deck list formed by Shinbu. Is a fairly straightforward deck list, and if newcomers would like to try, this is probably one of the deck that you guys can try. If you guys would like to try something else from Darius Harrowing, so this is probably the deck that I would recommend. And yeah, so 2 copies of Concussive Palm is something new to this particular deck. So with Concussive Palm, you could slow your enemy down at the same time having another unit, and you could speed them down just by slowing them down. So yeah, this sounds like really weird, but this is what it's for. And so far we have been seeing a few good results with it. So you guys could try Kinko Elusive. So there are some variation right now with Brom as well. So it's like Z Brom Elusive. Yeah, so you guys could go and try that particular. It's doing kind of well right now, but this is the deck that I would still recommend, and it's brought by Shinbu to Duels of Runeterra, and he made top 16. And then moving on the list over here, we have Deep Sea Monsters, which is a fairly good matchup spread. It mainly loses to itself. So if you can't get too deep by the time you need it, and it kind of just loses and we just lose, right? So Ionia based deck can be tough to handle, but the main reason to play this is to hard counter Bromnivia. So if you're seeing too much more Bromnivia around, Deep is probably the deck to play. But however, with the decline of Bromnivia on the ladder right now, it is still gonna be fairly strong, and with more healings and things like that, Deep you could survive and then go deep and then kill your opponent with your sea creature. So this is the list by I Am Your Father. This is the list that I Am Your Father brought to top 4 of Duels of Runeterra. I kind of like this list, and with two beasts, the beast below, and yeah, the beast below is free when Maokai flips. So it is just on turn 7, if you are deep Nautilus into the beast below, you have like what, a 13-13 and a 7-7 on the same turn immediately, right? So probably if you guys do not like it, you could remove both copies, add another copies of Tawny Toad, and add another copy of Abyssal Eye. And Abyssal Eye is so great over here. It is an elusive unit. If your opponent have no ways to deal with elusive, Abyssal Eye is practically hitting your opponent nexus for free, and if you're on deep, it's 6 damage every single turn. And of course, we have Shipwreck Hoarder over here, allowing you to get 2 treasures. There are tons of good. Their treasures are great. You could take advantage of them, and at the same time, Shipwreck Hoarder also allow you to toss as well. So moving on into the spells over here, Jettison to help you to get into deep much faster. Vow Feast for survivability, taking 1 mana creature, 1 health creatures off, and at the same time having a Spiderling as a defender. Riptide over here has been a great addition into the list as well. So with Riptide, you could stop things like Darius or any overwhelm unit, right? Basilisk Rider, and Riptide could save you from like really clutch damage. So you could stall the game and then finish your opponent off with Nautilus or even any of the sea creatures. So Salvage, you guys can get to deep and draw powers as well. Withering Will for heals, and Atrocity and Runation. So yep, so this is the deck list that I Am Your Father brought to Duels of Runeterra 12, and he actually got top 4 of it. So this is the deck. If you guys would like, if you guys like really huge creatures and just pure power and just banging into your opponent, so this is the deck to look out for. And last but not least, in the tier A over here, we have Elusive Burn. So Elusive Burn is still maintaining at where it is, but however, it is seeing more and more play right now in the meta game. So it is a more aggressive version of Kinko Elusive. Same game plan, but instead of using protection and tempo tools, you finish your opponents with burn and whatnot. So this is the deck list over here. So this is a fairly straightforward, Ionia championless Noxus Elusive. So yeah, so this championless Elusive. So this is the deck list that you guys could try. And bouncing with Nabori Conspirator and Solitary Monk, if you guys could get a Crimson Disciple and Demolitionist combo going, and with the help of Conspirator and Solitary Monk, dude, the amount of damage that you are dishing just by these 2 units without combat is gonna be so lethal. This is 4, and then you could use Nabori Conspirator, scoop up the Demolitionist, do 4 more damage with the Crimson Disciple with the Demolitionist again, and then with the Solitary Monk, scooping everything up again, and then replaying that whole combo again and again and again, right? So this is the power of this particular list, and it has so much burn. You have with Elusive, it is so crazy, and this is probably one of the stronger aggro right now, but it is slowly seeing more play, and just that it is not as strong as Darrowwing as of right now. It's kind of like 49, 41, 50, 50 kind of like competition with this and Harrowing. But however, this is not here as yet, but I'm sure it will make its way up there if its power level is proven by the players over here in the server. And also coming up over here, moving on into tier B, first deck over here we have is Tempo Cowgirl. So it's a aggressive start, steal cards from opponent, and leveling up the champion, finish up with Rex. So this is a really tempo focused deck, and it is still what it is. It's still doing what it does, but however there are lots of variation that stop running pilfered goods, and yeah, so they stop running pilfered goods, and they stop focusing on the yoin, but however they're focusing more on tempo, having more bigger creatures and like unstoppable creature on his battlefield as well. So this is the deck. If you guys have the resources, you guys could try, but it's not doing as well right now. So I would not really recommend it. But if you like tempo style kind of deck, this is probably the deck to go for. And then moving on to the second deck over here, we have TF Swain. So TF Swain controls the board, chip your units Leviathan to level up Swain and close the game out. So anything with Leviathan and Swain, your objective is probably with Leviathan and Swain not allowing your opponent to move with Swain flip ability. And yeah, this is a very interesting addition over here with 2 copies of Sleight of Hand. So this is actually made by Rain Ferret, and he actually brought over to Duels of Runeterra, and Rain Ferret got top 8 in DOR. Oh, okay, sorry. Yep, so this is the deck list that was brought to us by Rain Ferret, and he got top 8 with this particular list. Yep, so interesting, 2 copies Sleight of Hand to control your opponent hand at the same time. And there's so much control tools, with the text that's available. Petty Officer could either give you tempo or either give you text, right? So with the text, you have like Ravenous Flock, Make It Rain, Death's Hand, Noxum Fervor, to allow yourself to gain so much control over your opponent's creature, and also with Twisted Fate being a control tool as well. This deck is just too strong, right? If you guys could pilot it properly, but however, it is dropping down on power level because of the aggression of the speed of the meta right now is really fast. So if you guys know, it's not really recommended. This deck is just too slow for the meta right now. Therefore, it's at tier B. But however, it is still a very great deck. And also coming in, we have Cad Control. So Cad Control, this is the deck produced by RBRCY. Yo, hold on, let me just change the yeah, this supposed to be here. Alright, so this Cad Control is the deck where RBRCY used to win Duels of Runeterra 12 over here. So the whole point of the deck is to use Cads to buff your spells and gain control of the mid and late game and start dealing damage into your opponent nexus with Gangplank. So this is the variation that he brought to the competition with Twisted Fate and Gangplank instead of Gangplank and Thresh. So this is a very different take, compared to the older version, the previous version of this particular deck, where they run Monkey Idol and Thresh. So with Gangplank, Dreadway, Commander Ledros, this is just a combo to like finish off your opponent if you guys have both on board at the same time. With Dreadway, putting down Ledros, that is cutting your enemy nexus in full. So it is an immediate combo of for Ledros over here. And there is so much single turn cards over here that RBRCY brought to the competition. It kind of like loses consistency, but however, each card when used at the right moment is gonna be so crazy. And with the Hex over here, you guys could just stall, control the board, flip Gangplank, and then attack him with Gangplank to close the game. Or with Dreadway and Ledros, you guys could close the game as well. So yeah, so this is the list that is brought to DOR 12. The champion actually brought it all the way to the finals and won the whole competition. So this is the deck that you guys would like to try. If you guys would like Kek style kind of deck, this is the deck to try. And also we have Brom Vladimir over here, still right here in tier B, hanging on. And this have not seen much change compared to the last list, so I wouldn't touch on this too much. But you guys, it actually take advantage of like the Crimson Disciple and Crimson Curator, and with Amber Maiden, Vladimir, it could damage itself and at the same time gaining value out of hurting yourself. So you have things like Transfusion and Take Heart to and Shed Spoil to buff the creatures in your deck to make it more difficult to kill, but at the same time easier. Like if you take damage, you could survive longer by dealing more damage to yourself. So yeah, Brom Vladimir. And then moving on, these are the decks that actually fell off tier A. First, we have MF Queen Scout. This deck have not seen much play recently, therefore dropping down the ladder. And the better version of Scouts right now is probably MF and Lucian. So not much play for these decks, but if you guys have Queen, you guys would like to try it out, this is the deck we go for. And but however, I would strongly recommend MF Lucian instead of this particular variation of Scouts. And then moving on, we have Pnz Burn. So this is the straight out burn. Yep, so this deck is like straight out burn, just go your opponent face and just burn, right? Everything but burn, smoke, burn, hit face, burn. Yep, so but however, the power level is going down in this particular deck because mainly of the nerf of Boom Crew Rookie during the 2 patches ago, I guess. Yeah, it's about 2 patches ago where Boom Crew Rookie got nerfed and this deck just went downhill. So but however, if you guys have if you guys are new, have no much cards to spare, this is probably the deck that I would recommend that you guys could climb the early ladder with. But however, moving on into the late ladder of like diamond or platinum, this deck might not be as well, right? So just a warning, this is really good for early ladder. But moving on to the later part, the ending part of the ladder, this is gonna be a challenge if you guys are playing this particular deck. And then right, we have Tempo Endure. Kind of seeing lesser and lesser play over here. It kind of dropped off from tier A if I'm not wrong, right? So it kind of like take advantage of creatures dying and reading with having so much tempo in the early game. However, this deck is not seen much play recently on the ladder, therefore it's dropping off. But we have seen this deck in action. The power level of this deck is really good, but it is unable to deal with Darius Harrowing pressure, the pressure of Darius Harrowing. So your creatures are so low in health, it's kind of difficult to stop overwhelm units. Therefore, this deck is seeing lesser play. But it's a fun strategy to play with, right? Having your creatures dying, you have Ravenous Butcher to kill your own creature, and if you kill a Curse Keeper by yourself, like sacrifice a Curse Keeper, you have a 3/4/3 Escape Abomination. Blighted Caretaker could take out Curse Keeper as well, having 2 saplings and at the same time have a 4/3 Escape Abomination, and at the same time you could even level up Kalista on the way as well. Kalista with Haunted Relic could immediately give you a flipped by turn 3, and also with Haunted Relic, that also means they who endure gain 3/3/3 from the 3 death of this 3 Unleashed Spirit. So yeah, so this is the deck that you guys if you guys like to try out with killing my own creatures, gain advantage of death, this is the deck to look out for. And also Navigate Collector, whenever a creature dies, you drain 1 from your enemy nexus. So you could basically just finish the game by just killing your own creatures. But if you're like low on health and things like that, Navigate Collector will be there to save the day. But however, cards like this is very prone to Culling Strike, right? Navigate Collector and Elise are like very good targets for Culling Strike. So do look out for Culling Strike if you guys are playing against Noxus with this particular deck. And then the last deck of the Meta Snapshot over here is gonna be Ledros Control. So it's basically control the board, stay all the way to turn 9, drop the Ledros, and then finish off with like Atrocity or Burn Spell from your particular deck. So this is the deck brought to us by Hai, and he made all the way to top 8 with this particular deck list. So as you can see, this deck used to be called Corina Control, but however, the Corina is seeing lesser and lesser play because the main focus of the deck right now is to combo off Ledros and then kill your opponent with burn spells like Get Excited or Mystic Shot. And yeah, so this is the list that Hai brought to Duels of Runeterra, and he made top 8 with this particular list. So there's some debates, right, and about this deck in the current meta right now. But however, if you could control your opponent, control the board, your opponent, and heal at the right time, your opponent could not possibly could not do much against you, especially like aggro decks right now. Yeah, so this is the Commander Ledros control deck that is brought to us by Hai. So if you guys miss playing your good old Corina control, probably this is the one of the better lists right now to play this kind of style of deck. So this deck is kind of like on the fence of like tier B and tier A, but however it's not really seeing much playability in the region right now. So therefore I kind of decided to drop it down to tier B. But anytime if the playability goes up, the play rate goes up, it will be probably at tier A by next week. So yes guys, so this is the end of the whole meta snapshot. So I do hope that this snapshot kind of helped you guys and gave you guys a brief summary of what actually is happening right now in the Southeast Asia meta. So most of the deck over here is provided by our players, and some decks that are not seeing much plays we got it off Mobilytics or decks of Runeterra as well. So yeah, so this just to give some credit and shout out to the guys who helped out with this particular meta snapshot. This snapshot is actually done by Zeroinfinity, Hai, and myself, where we came out with this statistic and came up with this comment section where you guys could understand this particular spreadsheet easier, and for you guys for easier referencing and things like that. And also we took some reference from Xiaoken's meta spreadsheet as well. So shout out to him, and some credit. This is a credit to him that we use his list as a reference as well. So we made this video so that we could get players awareness and help out new players and people who want to know what exactly is happening in the Southeast Asia region, where you guys could play around the meta, or you guys could just join the meta and play what is exactly in the meta for the Southeast Asia region. So yes guys, I hope this really helped you guys out. It has been 40 minutes long and it probably should stop over here. So thanks so much guys for joining us for this video. I stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. I do Legends of Runeterra content, so do join me in my Twitch channel. The Twitch link is down below, my social media links is down below, and please do subscribe and like the video. And yes guys, and it's MoonBoy blasting off. Bye bye.